What's poppin', people? It's Dante, just walking along the streets of Philadelphia on this beautiful Sunday morning. Yeah, it's very peaceful and quiet. I could hear the sounds of the birds, and I have the beautiful sun that I am following, right? Just follow the light, paint with the light, the power of street photography. You know, I like to think of the camera, it's almost like a key, right? The key, it's something that unlocks the many doors in life. And yeah, I think when you open yourself up to curiosity each and every day, simply following the light and painting with it, yeah, I think it's a good idea. The world becomes the canvas, right? Whether you view the world this way is a choice, right? I believe that we have the choice to determine how we view the world itself. You know, I view this world as an open playground, right? And you know, I cut through my own paths. You know, I'll walk through the gardens, into the grass. You know, you don't have to confine yourself to the grid. There's something about the grid that keeps cities in motion, but when you go off of the grid and you walk along the outskirts of the city, you find yourself in a spirit of becoming. I feel like when I'm by the water specifically, I feel like I'm fueled with this like immense appreciation for the natural beauty. Just looking at these flowers here in the garden, there's something about nature and the return to it, and sort of balancing the chaos of a city with nature walks I find to be critical. And so yeah, when I walk this way, so I'm walking towards Penn's Landing, I'm walking towards the water, I feel this gravitational pull that's just taking me there. I can't really explain it. Maybe it's just the fact that the sun's there, and I know that when I arrive at Penn's Landing there will be sunlight and I can walk around there by the water. And there's like this feeling you get when you sort of walk towards the water, when you're by a stream, when you're by the ocean, the rivers, the lakes. I'm not really sure how to point my thoughts towards this, right? I think maybe there's like a connection to our deep ancestors or something, right? When you like go by the water that's ever moving and ever flowing, it's almost like this I don't know, it's almost like this deep connection to the earth, to the ancestors before us who've crossed over these similar paths and similar streams. Thinking of George Washington, right, crossing the Delaware. When I walk towards the Delaware, I'm reminded of him conquering and moving his boats and men across the Delaware River, founding this great country, the United States, right? So I love thinking about history. I love passing by this Masonic temple, seeing Benjamin Franklin on the statue, shaking the hand of Washington himself. You know, there is something about the history of Philadelphia that is nice to remind yourself of when you walk around the city. And so, yeah, just a beautiful morning. Filming with the GoPro Mini, 1080p, 30 FPS, exported to 720p because I like to reduce my file size. Yeah, I think small file sizes are important for me going forward. You know, just hosting my images on my own website blog, the speed at which it takes to import and upload, you know, these things actually I believe maybe we overlook as photographers going forward with the increase of megapixel count, file sizes. Yeah, I think maybe to go back and to reduce the sizes is maybe yeah, it's maybe more important, right? So like thinking of the Fujifilm X100VI that just was released, what is the update? You know, they just increased the file sizes and the megapixel count. Real no innovation there whatsoever, but I think what's going on with photography is interesting, right? Thinking into the future of the medium, thinking into the future of photography, digital technology, you know, artificial intelligence. Perhaps with Lightroom and the advent of AI and raw files, you won't be able to distinguish between the two, right? Whether or not the photo is made by an artificial intelligence or through, you know, the lens of a camera. Even considering the use of my iPhone Pro, I can make a photograph and apply after the fact the background blur, right? I can make the depth of field shallow if I'd like in post-processing, and it looks good. It doesn't look fake or anything, in my opinion, right? It looks just good enough. And I think it's only going to increase, you know, in its capability over time. And perhaps it's wise for us as photographers to consider these things because, you know, I don't know, I even consider the Leica camera system. They recently introduced this credential sort of authentication thing. So when you photograph using the Leica, the file itself, you know, clarifies, like, I don't know, it's something about, you know, future-proofing it so that it's clarifying that it's not made by AI. It'll sort of show the adjustments made to the file sizes or the file itself or whatever. And I think actually what's interesting is, you know, with all these like technologies, maybe to set the limitations as strictly as possible will allow for creative thriving going forward. And I'm thinking right now about my process shooting JPEG files. So like maybe JPEG is a good solution because of all this kind of, you know, digital AI stuff. You know, it's I don't know why it's interesting to me. I think it's just like a topic I had on my mind when I woke up this morning. Yeah, I think when you photograph using the high contrast black and white, when it's just pushed all the way, there's really no way that you can play with this after the fact, right? You can't really manipulate or do any funny business in the post-processing. So perhaps that's why I find it to be a solution that sets the, you know, it's like the most limit. It's like you're pushing the limits to the absolute max, right? You're setting like the most strict limit on yourself. And then, yeah, maybe because we are abstracting reality and sort of creating something from nothing using this aesthetic and this process, we can then transcend going forward through the medium of photography, sort of returning to the bare bones of light and shadow may be the solution for street photography as an ethos, just as a way of doing things with all of these technologies going forward. I think it may be a much more interesting artistic approach to consider, and that's my thought about it. Just wondering and thinking into the future, you know, as I like to look back into the past and admire the statues and the old architecture and find my way towards the river here, I also think forward. Yeah, maybe that's the only way, just onward, and just adapting with the times, the technology, and yeah, even, you know, maybe another good limitation is like, yeah, if you like shooting film, just shoot film. But if you're a digital photographer, perhaps, yeah, maybe the JPEG file is just interesting to me. So yeah, do these things really matter? Is AI going to replace photography? I mean, I don't think AI will replace photography. I think that ultimately artificial intelligence will speed up the process for a lot of the commercial and professional world. Thinking of models, product photography, advertisements. I think a lot of it can be used with AI, which is, I mean, let's be honest, like, why would you need a whole film crew or a set of people to make these pictures that you can pump out in 2 seconds? But in terms of photography as a creative pursuit and as an artistic medium, I think it's, yeah, it's going to be forever flourishing. I think that with photography, it's mostly an enjoyable physical sort of pleasure, right? Where you're walking and you're moving your physical body through the world, observing life, making sense of all the chaos, right? Watching the pigeons in flight, making sense of the chaos, right? Observing the patterns of nature and human behavior, and just finding joy in the mundane. Another thought about photography I think is really empowering is to consider the decay, right? The beauty in the decay. When you observe life and its impermanent nature, right, where every moment is fleeting, I think it maybe unlocks or triggers a new philosophy of thinking in your approach, right? And I think that opens up more possibilities in terms of creativity and photographing more. So when I consider the sort of textures on the walls and these sort of like tiny details, and you know, the rusting of things, and just looking at life in this way, I am making more photographs, right? I'm making more pictures than ever before, where, yeah, maybe breaking free of any rules or guidelines or approaches within the realm of street photography is critical in order to pursue this thing with longevity. And I believe this to be true, you know, even just considering this morning, right? Like, it's Sunday morning, there's, like, you can see through this video, there's nothing going on, right? I think actually, see, like, this is a perfect example of photographing like this kind of stuff. And so I think, yeah, it's important to consider these things, because even on a, you know, Sunday morning, beautiful weather, great day in Philadelphia, you know, it's going to be a lot of walking, it's going to be a lot of moving and looking, and you're going to be on the hunt all day long, right? Looking for that strange, weird moment, that sort of keeper photo, if you will. And honestly, the pursuit isn't worth it. Like, you know, I think you can photograph anywhere, wherever you may be, right? It doesn't need to be some bustling street in New York City. You don't have to even be in a city like Philadelphia, right? Like, you can be in a village, you can be in the mountains or on a beach. And I just think it's important to consider that, because for me, I believe street photography is a way for me to stay curious about life itself. And if I'm caught up with the destination, right, the photograph, the keeper shot, the one that makes me, you know, happy and giddy inside when you look at the Lightroom catalog and you see that photo, oh wow, that was amazing, I can't believe I saw that or did that. You know, I think to remove yourself and detach yourself from the outcome is critical. So, you know, the autotelic approach is necessary, where you're simply making photos for the sake of making photos. You know, I'm going for my walk right now, and I'm sort of just taking the camera, you know, just for the ride, right? I make the camera my slave, where setting it in automatic mode, right, where you don't have to consider the settings or any of these things. And honestly, even just removing any simple conventions like looking through the viewfinder or looking at the LCD screen and just snapshotting your way through life, it's a much more fun approach. And ultimately, I believe that the journey, you know, should be fun, right? It should be an enjoyable process. And so finding your own game to play, make your own way of playing this game. And yeah, don't worry about you know, like approval of others, any external factors. Sort of just stay laser focused on your personal curiosities, and ultimately through your intuition and through your exploration, yeah, life will deliver its beauty to you, right? Where I go very slowly when I walk the street, right? I enter this Zen zone, and I believe actually walking at a physically slower pace is perhaps wise, right? Where I find the slower that I walk on the block, you know, the more that I'm shooting my Glock, okay? And I don't mean guns, I mean photos. Yeah, I remember people were always like apprehensive to use language such as like shoot photos, or oh, did you shoot a picture, because it sounds violent. But I'm over here like, I wield the camera as a sword. Fucking warrior photographer. I like it better this way. not taking it too seriously. Yeah, I think yeah, it's a good idea. Let's get back into the sun. I wanted to cross over to Market Street. You know, I photographed here on Market Street for the longest time. Like, I've returned to the same locations over and over again because I truly believe that through repetition you will increase your chances of not only finding something interesting, but just increase your chances of making a successful picture in general, where you're recognizing where the light is casted, at what time are people on the street. You know, the bus stops on this street providing me with an endless flow of people at certain times of the day, and sort of becoming in tune with the rhythm and the beat of the street, right? Where I find myself dancing with my 2 feet, with my camera on this particular sort of location, right? Like, photographed here many years ago, over a decade ago. This is where I first started to explore with my camera, and it's interesting to observe the change over the time that I've spent photographing in Philadelphia. Now we have this Fashion District Mall, and now there's word on this street that they're going to be introducing a 76ers basketball arena at this location, as the mall is not necessarily the most booming of a business. And so, yeah, I think that they're going to introduce an arena here, and maybe there'll be even more change and more things happening on this particular street. And I think finding these places wherever you may be in the world where you can consistently go back to and feel like you can accomplish something is maybe a good idea. You know, while I do like to follow my intuition and, you know, venture off on new directions and take different paths, there is still something to be said about walking the same lane, right? Where can you walk the same lane every single day and still find something to uplift in a photograph, right? Where you embrace this mundane path and find beauty in it. And I think it's really paradise on these concrete streets when you walk under the sun and you're just moving your body, and, you know, it really doesn't matter where you are. Yeah, so I think certain ideas around like projects, themes, and all these things I actually think are more interesting to avoid, where you kind of just go out and photograph, right? It's really simple. You just kind of bring the camera for your walk wherever you may be in life, photograph. I think setting out to do any sort of theme or project or, you know, grandiose idea or whatever it's not that critical. You know, I think the goal is to just make pictures, be curious. Yeah, you don't have to make some sort of like like artist statement, you know, or like have the idea before you go out and photograph. I think, yeah, it's much more interesting to just follow your gut, frankly. You know, study the masters, learn from some books, understand the history of photography to an extent. But then I think you gotta just let go of all that sort of stuff. At this point, going forward, it's our time to shine and make our own game to play. Yeah, that's my thought. But man, it's really a strange feeling, you know. Even just coming now, where am I at 8th and Market? I'm inching, you know. I got what, 8 more blocks until I arrive at the water. I just start to feel good. I just start to smile. I start to like get happy inside when I'm approaching the river, and I really wish I could put words to it. You know, it's just like a natural inclination that I have. I'm just so happy to have a natural space to walk around. And so. Yeah, I think considering the world as like just this open world to endlessly explore it's just important for me, right? Because of all of my travels and all the places I've been to, and I just need to remind myself that, you know, this world is so open, and I'm just grateful to be alive. And so when I look out at the water and I can see the horizon, it reminds me of this feeling. I think maybe that's it. it's not nostalgia, but there is some sense of like memory that becomes evoked in my head or something. I don't know. I think Benjamin Franklin would be turning in his grave if he saw what they're doing to him. They got him with the cheesesteak. Yeah, I think real cheesesteaks are served with whiz cheese. So yeah, the whiz kid is a good little motto. Yeah, I think that sharing thoughts candidly and raw like this, where I'm just speaking and walking, is a simple way to flesh out ideas and just to rehash old ideas, where consistently speaking to a camera, consistently going for walks and just sharing is this almost like an antidote to consumerism, where I don't believe that consuming anything is necessary these days, right? You don't even need to look at photo books or study the history of art. I think actually to just do it is better. So like there's no one on YouTube or anywhere that you can learn photography, frankly. You know, there's no entertaining show that's gonna keep me occupied. You know, perhaps doing these things sparingly is important as an artist, where you remain sort of pure in your thoughts and approach. Check it out. Create your own Rocky movie. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. He's got the We the People. Yeah, Rocky. Yeah, this is the best location to use the restroom. Check it out. Visitor Center, just across from Independence Hall. I always stop here to drink some water after using the restroom, because yeah, there's not many fountains in Philly. Like, I try to find water fountains and bathrooms that are accessible in the city that I frequent, and yeah, honestly this is the only one that I like to use. It's very modern. They have these like dryers, everything, like you don't have to touch, like everything's automatic, like the water comes out automatic, the dryers, everything's automatic. Maybe it's actually a nice thing, you don't have to touch anything. And then the water fountains are clean, the bathrooms are typically clean. Yeah, so yeah, check it out. Independence Hall, the birthplace of America. Welcome to Old City, Philadelphia. Now we're entering this historic sort of area. Look at this big grass area. It's so beautiful. Absolutely love Philadelphia. It's like what, 30 something Fahrenheit, like 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 32. But honestly, with the sun out, it doesn't feel bad. You got a nice coat on. I've got the Eco. So these are the Vibram 5-finger Eco Wool. I also have 2 pants on, the toe socks. Yeah, these are actually really warm in the winter, depending. I mean, if it gets below freezing, I won't wear them. But honestly, on a day like this, they're perfect. And yeah, the only difference from these and the ELX model, which I find to be the best, is, you know, the sole is exactly the same, but there's just some like lace system, and the material is just warmer. It's got wool around it, so I don't know. They do the job. I think I need to find better toe socks. I bought some from Amazon and they always rip. But yeah, it's fine. Just go, car. And so yeah, it was my turn. I need to jaywalk now because I don't like to wait. Am I gonna get arrested? Is the security camera watching me? Am I gonna get a fine and my social credit score decreased in points? No, for this is the land of the free, right? God bless America. Hey, look at this, the hope, promise of a good future. I haven't visited this museum. American History Illuminated, looks interesting. Yeah, maybe hope is good. Watched Cabrini yesterday. It was a rainy day, so I went to see Cabrini. And yeah, Saint Cabrini. What is, she said something about hope, right? Like a mission of hope. She wanted to conquer you know, the world through her orphanages and her sort of mission of sort of bringing hope in a prosperous future initially for the Italian people that immigrated to New York. Actually, my family, you know, going back into my genealogy, we kind of came over here via Ellis Island, and one of the members of my family actually was in one of Cabrini's orphanages as a boy. And so when his father came back from Italy with a wife, yeah, thanks to the Cabrini orphanage, yeah, kept the family going. And yeah, I thought the movie actually was really inspiring and a wonderful work of art. You know, films like these are hard to come by these days, it seems. But Cabrini, I'd actually say it's worth watching. Personally, I don't watch many movies. Like, when I consider movies that I've watched in life, they're mostly stuff that I've watched when I was a little kid. Like, I watched The Goonies, Harry Potter, Stand By Me, A Bug's Life. I remember Small Soldiers. That was really cool. When I was a kid, I used to set up the Small Soldiers all over my bedroom, Lincoln Logs. I would set up like an army over here, an army over there, like those green and tan guys, and I always would draw little figures of armies and war. And yeah, when I was a little kid, that's how I played, using my imagination. Sort of, I remember, like, I would have one of the army men move one turn, and then like on the other side one would be able to move, and I would go back and forth and like get them closer and closer to the front lines until one team won. And I just sort of made up like dialogues and things as I would go. I remember enjoying playing with those toys, actually, even though I mostly spent time outside, you know, exploring in the forest and biking and things. Sometimes I would be inside, sometimes I'd play video games, but there's something about imagination and creativity, and something that happens when you grow up, you kind of lose it. But actually returning to that childlike creativity and naivete is maybe it's maybe important as artists and photographers. But yeah, movies, I haven't really watched many. I saw, you know, most recently Cabrini, and then I guess Oppenheimer, which was amazing. But other than that, yeah, I never really go to the movies. I never really watch movies. The only superhero movie I remember watching as a kid was Spider-Man. Makes sense, right? Photographer. But yeah, last, I've like no films under my belt. I mean, I remember at a time I would love watching Lost in Translation on the plane. I don't know why. I thought aesthetically it's just beautiful. But yeah, what other movies have I watched? I really don't know. But maybe it would be wise for me to actually start consuming more media and things, like sparingly, and sort of curating media that I consume, because I haven't watched much, obviously. So yeah, maybe it would be actually a good idea. Maybe I can go back, watch some like old black and white movies, something that can inspire me in my photography going forward, or something. Even with books, right? Like I haven't read like, at all, like in my life. Like the last, like genuinely, like the last book I remember reading was in high school, 1984, right? Like I remember reading 1984, and like that was the only book I remember. Like in high school, when you would read books, like they would assign you a book or whatever, and like most of them were just so boring that I would just look up the summaries and then just like make the book report. But now yeah, I remember starting to read 1984. I was like, this is really good, and I actually read all the way through. Now we're here in his world, maybe. But yeah, most of the books we had to read were really boring to me, and I never really got into reading because of that. However, now most recently started reading philosophy, and I think maybe it's a good idea now that I have like a fresh, like I basically have a blank slate, like barely any media consumption, barely read any books in my life. So yeah, I started going through Friedrich Nietzsche's books, read honestly almost all of them. I have like only a couple left, like Twilight of Idols, Human, All Too Human, and then his autobiography, and then I'm done. But all of the books that I have of his I finished, and yeah, that'll be cool. I think maybe going through like authors and reading an author that you're interested in and then like completing all of the books is cool, and then I can keep going back and rereading them and study from a particular, you know, philosopher or thinker or writer or whatever, instead of just reading random stuff. Sort of curating going forward about what media I consume. Maybe it's good. Yeah, starting to read. And then also writing. So I'm trying to start writing too. So basically I just use the voice dictation on the iPhone or iPad. I just press the little microphone. I just start writing out loud to flesh out thoughts. But frankly, I enjoy doing these videos way more than sitting down and writing. Even with reading, I can't sit down. So what I do is I bring a book to this location by the river, and I'll like walk back and forth and like read out loud, and I speak out loud. I think it's more enjoyable for me. It's actually getting hot. And yeah, so similarly, when I'm doing any like writing for my blog, I do all of it basically outside, just walking in nature, walking on the street, like wherever I may be, like usually here. I'll start writing and I'll just speak to my iPhone, and then when I go home I put it into this application, IA Writer, and it seems to be really nice and minimalistic, and I just make adjustments and stuff from there. Like maybe it's more interesting to not have perfect writing and have it be a little bit more grammatically incorrect, considering you can write pretty much any topic with AI now. I think maybe it's much more obvious when you read those things, but actually speaking out loud will allow the words to sort of just flow from your tongue and onto the device, and then yeah, it's quite literally your voice. So maybe it's more interesting to have imperfections in general. I think with art, imperfections is, yeah, imperfection is perfection. It's beautiful. Yeah, today's I'll be reading The Spartans by Paul Cartledge. History of the Spartans. Yeah, I feel like I have to read some days now. Like I'm trying to do it at least. Like it's something I'm starting to enjoy. You know, I've always just, I think it's better to just go on adventures, explore, and like I've done that for the past decade without reading or learning about history or anything. But yeah, maybe I'm at this like turning point where I want to, and maybe it's a good sign. So yeah, you can see. Yeah, you can see. They're actually renovating or you know, changing a lot of this area. This is going to become a big green space, Penn's Landing. It's going to become a huge park, and I'm so excited, honestly. Like once this project is finished, I guess it'll take a couple of years, I'm gonna be so happy, because this location, I mean, it's just so magical to me, having the sun, big open space, looking out towards the horizon, you know, the water. I always feel great. You know, there's something about solitude, like solitude is bliss. I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm better off alone a lot of the time, so I'm pretty much always just on my own. I find it to be, you know, my sort of happy place where I feel most, yeah, I just feel better. I mean, maybe I'm just built this way, I don't know. Some people are different. I mean, I'm extroverted, I love talking with people, I love hanging out with people, but generally I'm much more, you know, solo, dolo, whatever kind of guy. And yeah, solitude is something that I thrive in. But yeah. Welcome to the Delaware River. Here we are. Look, orange peels. Check it out. Beautiful, beautiful place. I mean, I just got the perfect amount of sun exposure. And you can see the Benjamin Franklin Bridge, this Benjamin Franklin boat. I didn't know that it was called the Ben Franklin. That's cool. Some ducks. Yeah, and this glistening magic sort of body of water. Should I swim across? Yeah, this is where I like to come. I think in terms of like cities, yeah, Philadelphia has to be one of the most walkable places places in the United States where I can walk from river to river. I can walk all along the outskirts through the chaotic streets and just move around freely. I think that the reason why the city is so great is because it's so open. Like, I love looking out towards the next bridge. I think that's the Walt Whitman. There's the Navy Yard over there. I should walk to the Navy Yard today. The other day I kept walking. I almost got to the Navy. I was basically there. I should just keep going, you know, like the road is just endless. And when I come here, this is how I feel, you know. It's like I can go over there. Sometimes I walk across the entire bridge and I'll go to Jersey, you know, and I can like orient myself in these open spaces where I can see more. I mean, I still think that maybe the back of the Schuylkill, back of the art museum is better, but this one, I don't know, there's something special about Penn's Landing. It just always draws me in. And yeah, look, you can see all the construction. Ew, it's muddy. Yeah, I like actually feeling that you can like feel all the sensations of things when you walk around with these shoes. It's kind of fun, actually. Let's do some parkour. Sidewalk closed. Yeah, they're doing all this construction, and yeah, treat life like a video game. Treat life like you're Mario and Luigi. I'm gonna climb down a pipe and come out the other end. Yeah, I remember Mario Bros, the platforming games. Those were always super fun, you know, just jumping around, trying to speed run, beat the game as fast as possible. I remember playing Mario Bros a lot. Yeah, video games are interesting. Thinking back towards the past, what video games did I love? I remember enjoying Skyrim a lot. You know, one of the things I would do in the game actually was like speeding up the way that I acquired gold faster. And I would essentially glitch out of the map. So you can glitch out of the map once you arrive at Whiterun, I believe was the name of the town, and walk along the outskirts of this village. And you can see like the grid pattern where you see like all of the lines, and like, you know, you can like crawl under the map itself, if that makes sense, in these games. You know, like you find like this like secret, so it's like sort of just like hacking out the map, glitching out the map, we called it. And yeah, I would crawl underneath where people sell goods, and I would just steal from their chests. And the next day when I would spawn back in, I would sell their items directly back to them. And I thought that was just a funny exploit where I would like literally take their items and then sell them right back to them. Yeah, and I think that's how you advance. Maybe you gotta, you know, you gotta cheat, you gotta do a little cheat code to speed things up. I'm the OG speedrunner. And also thinking of the game Kingdom Hearts, I remember playing as a kid, where it's this like role-playing game, RPG, right? You spawn in as Sora on Paradise Island, I believe. You wake up, it's like, is this a dream? Is this real? You know, maybe it's interesting to consider life like a dream. And so yeah, Sora being amongst his friends on this island, you know, it's almost like the island becomes either this prison or this paradise for Sora and his friends, and eventually some escape through a portal to darkness, from what I recall, his friend Riku and Sora on the adventure to find light and unlock the Kingdom of Hearts through the Keyblade. And the Keyblade was the weapon in the game. Maybe the camera is a key, the camera is a sword. These are interesting concepts. You as your life as an RPG video game. And so yeah, Kingdom Hearts was one of the first games I remember playing on the PlayStation 2 whenever that was released. And yeah, it was a really great game. yeah, you know, light versus dark. You know, you fight against like the shadows, the shadow people, and the people that go into the darkness then are recruited by this organization that essentially feeds on the hearts of people and then become soulless and heartless. So there's this like the enemy in the game are like the heartless, and the people are nobodies. You know, the ones without the hearts are nobodies, feeding on the souls of the ones with the heart. And I think the philosophy around this game, now that I'm thinking back at it, it's like this was an incredible game. I remember a scene in the beginning on the island when you share a fruit with somebody, you then sort of intertwine your destiny together, where, you know, the memory of Sora and Kairi, the other main character in the game, forever is intertwined through the sharing of the fruit to Riku and Sora. And I remember a scene where he was fighting against Riku. He said, you know, you can't, like, he was like, you can't defeat me, you don't have a weapon. He was like, I don't need a weapon, my friends are my power. As long as they think of me every now and then they're always with me, you know. And it's just like such a powerful scene I remember in the game, and I feel like it's applicable to life in a strange way or something. Maybe I gotta get a PlayStation 2. Nah, video games I think are mostly distracting, but I think maybe it wouldn't hurt to rewatch the old scenes from that game. I think moral of the story is follow the light, and we will enter the kingdom of hearts. Perhaps through the key painting with the light. Alright. Time to enjoy my Zen water walk.